What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about 8 games that I hope will be at the Game Awards. Now, this is more about passion and like genuine want versus what necessarily makes sense. Now, I think there is like a seed of things making sense with all of these, right? There's like a part to it. Again, I think just in general, if I had to make a list of like ones I actually think are going to be there, it would probably be different than this list, right? So just going to keep that in mind as we go. Probably tomorrow, I'm coming out with my official just Game Awards predictions video, and I'll go over what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. But this is just genuine want. I did this last year. I think I did 10 games, and I don't remember if I got any. I feel like I got most of them wrong, but again, not necessarily right versus wrong, more like just something kind of fun to talk about. Okay, a lot of these I've made individual videos, like I said, already on, but let's go through them kind of in rapid fire fashion. And starting with number one, and one that I did not make a video on, Bioshock. This is kind of a mix of like I want to see it out of excitement, but I also want to see it out of almost dread, because I really don't know if I can trust Cloud Chamber to make this. That's kind of a whole different discussion we'll have to have in 25 years when the game comes out. I mean, that's exaggerating, but in all reality, like, we still have, I think, at least 3-4 more years until the game comes out. Now, this actually, like, I wouldn't count this out entirely. I wouldn't say this is 0% because, I think the rumor back in the day was 2029, which is ridiculous, I know, but that's a legitimate rumor. That's 5 years away. Actually less, now we're going into 2025, 4.5 years away. You could show it. You could show it now, and it could come out 4 years from now, and you've had games that have done that in the past. So it's not impossible. I just will always think the answer is no until you actually see it. But again, it's kind of out of a mix of, I'm a big Bioshock guy. I really love Bioshock, even the ones that people don't particularly like 2 and Infinite. Those are actually, I really like those quite a bit. But then it's also like, without Ken Levine, I don't know if you can actually do it, and it's just been so long, and the studio's had so much trouble. I want to just see kind of the end product, and I'm probably going to have to wait another like half decade. I have to be in my 30s for it, but it is what it is. But that's number one. Number two, let's actually go with kind of its counterpart, Judas. This is one that you think of 2025, and I don't know if for sure this game would even come out next year. I hope it does, but you think of the Mafias and Borderlands and GTA and some PlayStation games, maybe a Wolverine, but maybe Ghost of Yotei, and think of the Xbox games, Fable and Doom. If Judas comes out, it can really, I think, be a Game of the Year contender. I genuinely believe that. I think it could go up against GTA and still be a Game of the Year contender. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to compete against GTA, but I think whatever year Judas comes out in, I think it's going to be like a force to be reckoned with for somebody like me. Maybe not for everybody. Bioshock did blow up, but even like Bioshock 1, like, we're not talking about a game that sold 20, 25, 30 like a GTA or Red Dead, right? Like, we're not necessarily talking like that, but I do think the game is going to be quite good. And anytime we hear from it, anytime we see it, it looks fantastic. It sounds fantastic. So this is one that you give me a chance to see it any day, I'll take it, right? And that's kind of where I'm coming at from it. But also, it might come out next year. Maybe it comes out first half of 26. Again, maybe a possibility, but probably not. Okay, maybe, I didn't rank these, but this might be number one just in terms of I'm looking at my list, just in terms of my passion for the franchise, Kingdom Hearts 4. This is the one that I did do, a specific video on, and, if you watch the channel for any length of time, big Kingdom Hearts guy here. This is, I don't think it's going to be here. I feel pretty good about saying that it's not going to be here. Some people disagree. Some people think it's going to be there, and God bless you, and I hope that it is there, and I hope you're right. But again, kind of like Judas, whatever day, whatever month, whatever year that this game comes out, it's kind of all about this game, like specifically for, you talk about games that would get me more anticipated than like a GTA 6, this would easily be one. That's just me. That's like my personal taste. If you had a Sly Cooper game come out next year, that would be my number one most anticipated, not GTA or anything like that. That's just kind of the wiring in my head. Kingdom Hearts is one of my favorite franchises. Not much more to be said than that. I want to see it. I don't think it's going to be there, but we do need some updates. And, we've talked about it before. I think Missing Link comes first, but, whatever. Hopefully one day we get Kingdom Hearts 4 news. Okay, another one is Persona 6. And this comes a little bit based off Metaphor. I mean, I think Metaphor is just a good reminder that Atlas continues to be, like, peak. It continues to be elite. I thought this before. before. Like, I think a lot of us thought it before, but I think Metaphor kind of was maybe a wake-up call to be like, okay, they can kind of keep almost reinventing the wheel and make things really, really special, make things nice. So I almost feel like there's a renewed energy towards Persona 6. Also a renewed hatred that I didn't see really before like 2 years ago with like very anti-high school from like fans. They don't want it to be in high school. I respect your opinion if you think like that, but that is Persona to me. I think it'll always be Persona. But anyway, we're getting off track. I'm a big Persona fan. I mean, kind of new age fan. Don't want to make it sound like I've played every one of these because I have not. But ever since 4 Golden, I've been all in, and I cannot wait for the day we get into Persona 6. I think Metaphor is kind of just reinforced where it's like if you were, companies nowadays, companies can lose the trust of people very, very quickly. Just because you made one good game or your last game was good doesn't mean your next game is good. And that's sad. That's a sad world because I think there was more consistency back in the day, but that's how it is now. So I get it. I get people, not giving, studios their trust as much as maybe they used to, but I don't know. I feel like they continue to prove that, they've always been good, or at least recently, and they're going to continue. Okay, the one that's probably the most frustrating on this entire list, well, that's maybe not true, but maybe it's tied with another one, Wolf Among Us 2. We'll get to the other one that it's maybe tied to later, but Wolf Among Us 2, we talked about it 1,000 times. Very frustrating. The day it actually, I've probably said this before because we've talked about it every time, the day that it's finally shown is just going to be a glorious day. The first game is legitimately good. It's not even like something we made up where like we're pretending like the first game is good. So like that was peak Telltale. I think the age of Walking Dead, Wolf Among Us, Tales from the Borderlands is maybe my favorite if I think about it really hard. Although The Walking Dead is just so freaking special, and Wolf Among Us is so freaking good too. They were on an absolute freaking roll back in the day. And the day, like I just said, just because they did it doesn't mean that they can do it again. And it's been so long, and then the Telltale has been through so many issues. It's definitely not the same people, or at least not all of them, right? So no guarantee, but there's still that desire to play and to like be a part of, Wolf Among Us 2. And so hopefully we see it one day. This is one that, I've said this before, I probably said individual videos on Wolf where, I think I'm always going to say no to if you ask, hey, is this game going to be at X event? I'll always say no until it happens because they've lost all of the thing they have lost all my trust on is showing it. I know it'll be shown eventually, unless it's canceled, but I know it'll eventually be shown somewhere. But like, I don't know, I'm just almost so disconnected because of just the lack of any kind of communication. It's really like killed that part in me, and that's sad. It actually is really, it makes it maybe the most depressing of this entire list. And actually, well, I didn't know I wrote it this way, so let's just talk about the one that makes me feel the same way, Wonder Woman. It really does make me feel the same way because I've said this before with that too. I think the day we see Wonder Woman is a great day. I think regardless, if the game looks like complete trash, I still think it's a kind of special day because it's like, oh, thank the Lord, at least we finally saw it. Then we can kind of start talking about, okay, well, what do we do now? Now that the game's not looking good. I think the game's going to look pretty good, though. I don't know. While I have lost so much faith in it, I also have so much faith in it. And it's another one like Wolf Among Us. We've been waiting for so long. They've beaten... Again, they haven't beaten the hope of the game out of me, but they've beaten the hope of ever seeing the game out of me. And those are different things, and that's not actually me exaggerating like I normally do. Like, I really... When it's shown, it's shown. What I mean? Like, I'm not even going to get disappointed. I haven't for a long time if it doesn't show up at X or Y or Z event. Like, it's at a point where it doesn't really matter to me. It'll always be on a list like this. Whenever you talk about a game that you haven't seen in a while that you want to see, Wonder Woman's going to be, in the top 5. Again, this isn't ranked, but it's on the list, right? So hopefully we see it. Odds are against it, but hopefully. Okay, this one's, I wanted to combine it because I just want to kind of say Remedy. So Remedy games, and we're talking Max Payne, the remakes, 1 and 2, or Control, or Andor. Now, I don't really think they would show both. Again, there's a little bit of basis of like what can happen at the Game Awards mixed with what I would like to see. You would never get both. You also have the multiplayer game coming out next year, so you're not gonna. I mean, just from like a marketing thing and showing trailers, you're not gonna be running with a multiplayer game coming out next year and then show Max Payne and also Control. And I don't think I'm necessarily even asking for that. Again, Andor for sure. I if you want to show both, that make my day. That's totally fine. But I'm on like an or kind of basis. Like if you show Max Payne or you show Control, Max Payne's probably first. I mean, from all the signs, the Remedy's next game, besides the multiplayer game, is going to be the Max Payne remake, and then Control probably like a year or so after. So, it makes more sense to show Max Payne first. It might not be what they do. Maybe they want to lead with Control for some reason. We'll see. We'll see what ends up eventually happening. But this one, by the way, of this entire list, maybe like the next game is a high likelihood potentially for the Game Awards, but I do think Max Payne 1 and 2's remake, with Sam Lake actually being at the Game Awards, I do think it makes a lot of sense to show it. We'll see if that happens. And finally, Resident Evil 9. We made a video on this too, or specific video. This one I think makes a lot of sense, and then this is also one that it's kind of like an event when a Resident Evil, and it's probably always been that way. I mean, like from my perspective, I don't want to tell my whole life story, but I got in late, and I got in primarily at 5, and I think I've told that story before. Like I really like 5, and it's probably because it's the first one I played. I think I played maybe like the 1 remaster, whatever it was back in the day, or just maybe through PSN, like the classics thing. So maybe it wasn't even a remaster or remake, but I had a little experience, but 5 was the first game from beginning to end, and then just went from there. And 7 was very like weird going into it, but then it was kind of like this renaissance right after. And I'm kind of building. I'm telling a story, but it is building because 7 was weird because it was trying to get like its legs back under it, and it worked, and it did its job. And then 8, I would say 8 really felt like an experience. 8 felt like an event, getting closer and closer, and then the game coming out and just seemingly, well, at least like every YouTuber on planet Earth played it, and millions of people watched it, and then also millions of people played it. Like it's not like everybody watched and nobody bought it. It was actually quite equal, and everybody got their turn. So 8 just had such I would say a movement behind it. And I don't think Village is the best Resident Evil game. I actually think I like 7 more than 8, and again, in terms of growing up quote unquote, with 5, but at the same time, these are big events, and they're special to me. I really like when a new Resident Evil game comes out. Obviously you've had 2, 3, and 4 getting remade, and those were big too. But there's something special, I think, something more special, maybe that's controversial, but to a numbered title, right? Like when you see RE9 and it's Jill and Leon or whatever it's going to be, like it's going to be a thing. You know what I mean? It's if they show it at the Game Awards, it would be one of the biggest, if not the biggest thing shown at the Game Awards. That's how big it is. Again, compared to like some of the biggest games on planet Earth, it's not necessarily that, but you're talking about a very big franchise. A franchise is selling 5-10 million units, each game easily, if not more. So it's going to be special, I think, for the community. But then just, in terms of my, I actually wrote down as an honorable mention, I wrote down Pragmata, and then I kind of erased it because I was trying to figure out like what list I'm even kind of making here. I want that too, but priorities, and I do think Resident Evil 9 is kind of first on their like most important list. So I did write Pragmata though. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure as always you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and hope to see you all on the next one.